Well, welcome back to my channel. We're going to be doing something a little different in this video. My previous videos have been on knitting, but I also really enjoy doing sewing, especially vintage sewing. So today we're going to work on Simplicity 7817. Now, you'll notice that it's a little less form-fitting than most vintage patterns, and that's because this is a maternity pattern. It's from 1968, and the pieces include a jumper that can also be an overtop, a blouse, and a pair of pants. We're just going to be working on the jumper today. I think it's going to be very easy. Honestly, if it was in a pattern by itself, it would probably be labeled as one of those jiffy patterns that were very popular in the 60s and 70s, because it's literally just a front and a back and some facings, as well as a zipper. I think the zipper will be the most difficult piece. The reason we're doing maternity patterns is I'm hoping to start a new series as I progress through my pregnancy. I'm in my second trimester right now, and I've learned that I just don't like the look of a lot of modern maternity clothes. They're very stretchy and form-fitting, and because I normally wear a lot of vintage influence in my normal wardrobe, I was feeling that I needed that for this set of outfits that I'm going to need to wear for the next 6 months. I have quite a collection of maternity patterns, and so I'm hoping to be able to make some of those over the next few months as it gets warmer, as I have a bigger belly, but I think this will be a good start to our pattern. It's still a little cold here where we're at. I'm going to make it out of this nice purple corduroy that I have in my stash. I don't know when it's from or what it's made out of. Maybe we'll do a burn test later. But I think it'll make a nice structured garment that I can wear different tops under. This pattern is actually a little small. It's a size 8, and I normally wear a size 12 in vintage patterns. But I think because it is so loose and the silhouette is so loose, I don't think I'm going to have too much trouble with it fitting. It's supposed to be bigger as your body grows anyway, so I might have to do some looser seams on the side, but otherwise we really shouldn't have a problem. So let's start with cutting out our pieces and pinning them in place.
As I said, this pattern was very easy to pin and cut out, as there was only 5 total pattern pieces. The instructions did advise interfacing for the neck and armhole facings, but I figured since this fabric was so stiff and thick that I could skip those without compromising the structure of the garment. I also really hate doing interfacing, so anytime I can avoid it, I will. The only thing that made this pinning job difficult is that there were some issues with the fabric. There were a couple of stains that I think were from old rusty pins, as well as a few threadbare spots. I had to work around these quite carefully as they were in the center of the fabric. The next step was darts. There were 2 bust darts and 2 darts in the shoulders on the back pieces. I really enjoy sewing darts, so these went real quick. Just remember to hand finish the seam for a nice point. And then it was time for the zipper. I used a 22-inch purple zipper that didn't quite match, but it did the job. I can never remember how to sew a zipper in, and there are so many different tips and tricks for a painless install. But I always end up using the instructions in this 1970s edition of the Reader's Digest Complete Guide to Sewing. Their instructions include basting down the center seam, and then basting the zipper to each seam allowance before sewing all of the layers together and cutting open the basted center. It all worked out, and now we can forget how to do a zipper until the next project. From here, I went straight into pinning the shoulders and side seams together. I also pinned and sewed the facings to the neck and armholes of the dress. This fabric made it very easy to get nice, crisp edges. At this point, I tried the dress on my mannequin, whom I had given a baby bump to match mine. Unfortunately, the dress looked less than ideal. It was very baggy and shapeless and much too long. So I did a rough pinning of how it would look taken in and decided to sew on these new seam allowances. Okay, so I have shortened the seams on each side so that it fits a lot better. Now it's just kind of like a drapey, bulky dress as opposed to looking like Grimace. So I think it looks a lot better now. The next step is that it wants me to sew down the facings on the inside. Because this dress is so plain, I think it would do well to have a little bit more detail on the outside. So I'm going to actually do some stay stitching or some top stitching around the neck and around the armholes to give it more of a casual look that will go really well, I think, with the corduroy. And then we're going to shorten it a lot. It's way too long right now, so it just looks too big. I think once it's shorter, it'll look more modern, or at least a little bit more like it's supposed to look oversized, which is, you know, a thing now. But otherwise, it's going very quickly, which is very nice. I did the top stitching like I planned, and it turned out really well. The neckline looked more finished and polished. I did end up having to also hand sew down the excess facing fabric at the shoulders. It was just real lumpy and didn't lay flat when I went to put it on. And finally, it was time for the hem. I originally planned to have an extra large hem to accommodate needing to let it out for a larger bump, but I realized that I didn't want to hand sew the hem. I don't normally mind doing a hand sewn blind hem, but I wanted to do a visible hem to match the top stitching at the neck. This didn't mix well with the extra hem fabric though. It kept getting caught on the inside of the dress and looked real lumpy. So I nixed the extra fabric and just did a 1-inch hem. I figure if I wear this dress enough, I will just make another one for a bigger bump later on.